Hello and welcome to another week of Willow Talk. Adam Peacock here in the studio and all the way from India. It's great to catch up with our great friend Brad Haddin. Bradley, where are you in India and how are you?
It's great to catch up with you, Adam. I'm back in Chandigarh. We've got a rare event in IPL. We've got 20 days at our home port. We've got 4 back-to-back-to-back games at home, which is rare. You usually play, travel. So with the elections on and the IPL having to move to different parts of the country, we're lucky enough to get a 20-day stint at home. So we just got to find some wins.
It just means a hotel, a familiar hotel for a few days in a row. So and this was the big variable this season in the IPL, because of the election, which takes place at various times through India. You're basically they're having to manufacture the draw based on security availability and things like that around the election to stage matches in the IPL, because they're their own grand thing anyway.
100% correct. If the election's at one side of the country, we're at the other. So that was all part of, I don't know if you remember, IPL's draw only came out for the first 4 games, and then you had to wait to the status of the election, and then we could get the rest of the draw out and play the remaining of the tournament. There was talk it was going to be in Dubai, which a few of the foreign players weren't too disappointed with. But yeah, we've common sense has prevailed. We've found a slot in the schedule. We've just got to be at the other end of the country to the elections because of security reasons.
Well, there you go. Coming up today, Hads is going to give us a bit of an update on all things IPL. A lot happening with some of the glamour sides and some Australians doing some good things as well. And we've got the T20 World Cup squad, the announcement looming from an Australian perspective. So Hads is going to give us his latest version of that squad after a few weeks ago naming an initial one. We'll look at domestic cricket. There's player movement and player signings happening all over the place. So what we're going to do, because Hads, you get accused of just making it New South Wales biased the whole time. We're just going to go one big question from each state, all right? One big question from each state, and you get your thoughts on it as well. And if you want to tee off on something else like you ordinarily do, Hads, go for it. And we're going to finish with our sundries. That's the new risers and fallers, by the way, Hads. We've changed to sundries, just a little extra sprinkling of whatever else is going on around the place. Happy with that?
So as soon as I'm out, you change the format of the show. This feels like I am getting closer to that door, DC and you. But I'll live with it. I'll live with it. And I don't know how I can be accused of this New South Wales bias. So let's go over the state cricket and I'll see what we come up with.
Well, I will say that DC shared with us an MS Dhoni story of how he just liked to, don't worry about the batting order, I'll just go in when I feel like it, when a wicket falls. And it's gone berserk on social media for us, Hads. It's got over 1 million views on both our main one, Instagram and TikTok. So, yeah, you got a point. You're closer to the door, unfortunately. DC's delivering for us. And we've got the captain back as well. So, yeah, you could be down in the pecking order by the time you get back.
I can live with that, eh? I can live with that.
I'll find myself I'll come in when Hads is back and all of a sudden my pass isn't working and he's hosting. So that's how he'll operate, I dare say. Now, hit us up. Speaking of social media, if you haven't already, check out the clips of the show and get in touch with us. Find us on Instagram and TikTok by searching Willow Talk Podcast or click the links in the episode notes. Let's rip into it. Hads, IPL, firstly your side, Punjab Kings. Not a lot expected going in, given all the big names are in other places, and you've got your Johnny Bairstows and the like up there at Punjab and Rabada. But how are things working out for you in a really compressed, tight comp at the moment so far?
Yeah, it is compressed and tight. We've been a bit frustrated. Actually, we've lost 3 games in the last couple of balls. And you need to start to win a couple of those close games. Our captain's gone down for, we're hoping, between 7 and 10 days with a shoulder. So he's out for a period of time. But yeah, it's been frustrating. We can't find any runs at the top of the order at the moment. Our bowlers have been doing a really good job. They're keeping us in some contests. But yeah, it's our batting at the moment that's let us down.
That's a shame. Mitch Marsh. So he's returned home to recover from a torn hammy. He said minor niggle, hasn't been ruled out of the IPL, could go back there. What's the word on the ground about the big bison?
Yeah, that's just it. It sounds like it's a strange one. A minor hammy where he's gone home for. So there was talk that the big bison could come back and play a role later in the tournament. Delhi haven't had a great start to the campaign. Also, they're sitting down second from the bottom. It's with the World Cup. I imagine Australia will be overly cautious with their star players. Someone like Mitch Marsh, who'll captain that team, is such an important role there with the bat and ball. So, I don't think Australia will take any risk if any of their players pull up with niggles or anything that could rule them out of the World Cup. I think you'll see a lot of them return home if anything like that happens. So, Mitch Marsh, we hope gets right for the World Cup. It's weird. It said it's a minor one, but he's gone home, which is a bit concerning.
Well, it's shorter flight, obviously, to Perth, so maybe he's taken the liberty of saying that and then going back home for maybe 3 weeks to rehab it with his own crew back in WA and then get set for a second spell at the IPL. But say he doesn't come up, Hads, who would you say slots in as captain for the T20 World Cup?
Oh, you'd have to ask Paddy to do it. He's doing a really good job over here with the Sunrisers. I know it's an extra workload, but if the captain's out, the obvious one is Paddy Cummins.
Did you say anything to Johnny Bairstow when Paddy cleaned him up for a duck a couple of days ago?
No, not at all. It was the first time Paddy'd opened bowling, actually. It looked like a bit of a match-up plan that Paddy did come on and bowl early to Johnny. It was a good game, that one. It went right down to the wire. They got some serious power there at Hyderabad and playing a very attacking style at the start in the first 6 overs. But it looked like a bit of it was a matchup. It was definitely a matchup at the top for Paddy to bowl Johnny.
Did you catch up with Paddy and also Travis Head? Because Travis Head got a mention last week on Willow Talk with a story from Adam Zampa that they used to, they were flatmates once upon a time, and apparently Travis left some lasagna in a fridge, and you'd think that, okay, maybe bachelors, bit rough around the edges, the lasagna turns green and then you chuck it out eventually and whatever. According to Zamps, they chucked the whole fridge out.
That wouldn't surprise me, actually. I could see Travis Head just thinking, someone else will do that for me. He was. He's gay. He's living the life at the moment, Travis Head, over here. He's the impact sub in a lot of the games. So his role is to swing as hard as he possibly can in the first 6 overs and try to hit every ball for 4 or 6, and he doesn't have to field. So, Travis Head's living the life at the top of the order.
Well, that's how he's batting in Test cricket at the moment as well, so there's no real adjustment for him. Just talk us through the impact stuff. So if you're not totally across the IPL, what is it and how is it actually changing things about how these matches are being thought about and tactically prepared for?
Yeah, well, first and foremost at the toss, you got 2 team sheets. One if you bat and one if you bowl, and so if you bowl, you hand your team sheet over, and that's your bowling 11. But what happens then is you're allowed to sub one player out of the game. So you can start with 3 overseas, then sub an overseas player out to make the 4th, or you can just have your 4 overseas and you can sub any player you like. I tell you how it can work. So say for example. Say for us, we go in our bowling innings with 3 bowlers, with 3 overseas bowlers, and we get Rabada to bowl his 4 overs straight. We can then sub Rabada out of the game and bring Nathan Ellis to bowl the defensive overs at the back end of the game. So you can use your 2 of them then he comes into the team. But what you've seen a lot with the impact sub is a lot of higher scores because teams are basically playing with 8 batters. We're seeing teams go extremely hard in the first 6 overs because it doesn't matter if you lose a couple of wickets because you've got that batting net as the impact player. So we've played a couple of kids that have come in and done outstanding.
Young Aussie guy getting a crack with Delhi. Jake Fraser-McGurk obviously made an instant impact. It only lasted a couple of balls in a white ball game for Australia against the Windies at the back end of summer. But he's gone over there. He's had to bide his time. He's playing under Ricky Ponting. Obviously, great instructional value there at Delhi, and he went all right on debut.
Yeah, well, his second ball out of the stadium. He looked. He looked. We know the aggressive side of Jake, but I tell you what, it was a smart move by Delhi because they've played all their top line overseas for the start of the tournament. Hasn't gone well. Jake's had a month now to acclimatise to conditions, get used to different surfaces, be under the tutorship of Ricky Ponting, and he was outstanding in his debut. We know he's a leg side dominant player, and we've seen that on Australian surfaces, but he expanded his game. He had a couple of beautiful shots over point, a nice 6 over cover, and it looked like he opened not just half of the field up with the work he's been doing with Ricky Ponting. So, yeah, it was a very, very impressive debut there by young Jake.
Yeah, and obviously now that he exposed himself more regularly at this level, they'll try and pick holes in his game. But at the moment, he's first port of call for him was that debut, and he backed it up and scored some handy runs. Mitch Starc taking wickets again. Slowish start for Mitch this year. I think there was a headline back here, Hads. I don't know if it filtered over there in the Herald by Malcolm Conn saying he was none for 600 grand or something like that, or I don't know what they kind of equated to the number of wickets he's taken for the amount he's been paid so far. But he took 3 handy wickets for Lucknow, and he's got his rhythm, which is handy.
Well, he's an interesting one, Starkey, because I don't think he did not have his rhythm. I watched him pretty close in his first couple of games, and they got Phil Salt keeping behind the wickets, who's not a noted keeper. He's dropped a couple of tough chances off Starkey, some not so tough. So Starkey, yes, he's got no wickets, but he hadn't been bowling bad. Those couple of chances missed early in the first game, I think, can change the whole dynamic of what you do in those first couple of games. So, yeah, he bowled well for the first games without wickets. This game, the only difference is he's got wickets on the scoreboard, but his bowling form has actually been quite good.
Glenn Maxwell, 32 runs in 6 innings. What's going on with Maxie?
Yeah, he hasn't played well. That's the obvious answer, but a few of the modes are dismissal have been interesting as well. The way he's got out a couple of times hasn't really been like his head was in the game. It's different for some batters this year. You know, the 2 bouncer rule this year, that bowlers are allowed to use 2 bouncers, so maybe that's affected Maxi a little bit. But yeah, he hasn't started the tournament in great form at all.
Worried for the T20 World Cup with him?
Not one bit. We've seen this on a number of occasions with Max. He's had a poor IPL, and the first game back in Australian colours, he's dominated. It can be one of those forms of the game where you can have a patch like this, and especially in the style that Glenn Maxwell plays. He plays such a high-risk game in this form of the game, and that's what draws crowds in, the way Glenn Maxwell plays. So, yeah, I'm not concerned one bit for Australia's World Cup campaign in the West Indies.
Aside from the Aussies, here's one, Shamar Joseph. So, obviously, a well-known name, given his exploits at the Gabba on the last day of that test earlier or late on in the summer. So, first IPL over. He basically has a situation where it's like me in the backyard to the kids. 22 from 10, a 10-ball over. So it was dot. He started with a dot too. Leg by, 4-2, leg by, no ball, wide, 5 wides, no ball. See you later, 6 off the last ball when he eventually got a legal one down there. So he found it a bit tough, Shamar.
Yeah, he did. The one thing he was doing is he's bowling 150 Ks. Yeah, it can be a bit ruthless at that venue in Calcutta for fast bowling. It's very short boundaries there where Starkey plays, flat wicket. So yeah, he'll come back stronger. The one thing he did do, he at times in that over hit 150 Ks and the ball was swinging. So yeah, don't write him off yet.
What about this Yadav kid? So last time we talked, you said, "Oh, he is the real deal. He is really quick." But it's one thing to like kind of burst to attention, a bit like Jake Fraser McGurk. It's another thing to hold it and keep doing it and keep impressing people. What's he done, this guy? And I've got a feeling if he's anywhere near it, Australian conditions could suit a guy that can send him down at 150 plus consistently.
Well, the game after we spoke, he bowled same pace and got man of the match again and did the same thing. He's out now with I think a bit of a side strain, but he's the real deal. Not only the pace he bowls, but the bowling smarts that he used. It's not just come in and bowl 150 Ks and the ball goes everywhere. It was the length he bowled, the way he used his bumper and his change-ups. But yeah, I think I spoke a little bit about it last time. When I was sitting on the sideline watching, you're sort of half watching the game and looking what's going on all around the game as a coach. And all of a sudden, this ball came out of his hand and it was, whoa, it was serious pace. It looked 156 K. Some guys at times in the IPL can come up and go, oh, that didn't look like 150. This looked 156 Ks. This looks similar to Sean Tate and Brett Lee.
Well, imagine that. It's like bowling's version of Megadon. It's like merge Brett Lee with Sean Tate. You'd never go in the ocean.
Nah, he looks the real deal. So yeah, I'll be very, very surprised if he's not out there for the Australian summer. Whether they name him in the squad or name him as a travelling reserve, expect to see him play a test match against Australia.
Well, that could be a good thing for Australia, couldn't it? Because if he's just used as a travelling reserve and just used to take out his frustration in the nets and diminish a bit of confidence from the Indian batters, it could work out in our favour, by the sounds of things.
Oh, they'll have him on a pretty tight leash. They'll want him under the watchful eye of Rahul Dravid. Yeah, he'll be a force. He'll pop up somewhere this summer. If he's injury free, at some stage you'll play a test match this summer.
Take us to the biggest soap opera in cricket right now, and it's the Mumbai Indians. And this was talked about before. Rohit Sharma established there, and then all of a sudden they make a trade. Hardik Pandya, big personality, like, a big following in India. Bring him in and say, Rohit, thanks very much. You're not the captain anymore. Hardik Pandya, take over. There you go, pal. You're captain. And it's not working out at the moment, it's fair to say.
No, it's not. And Rohit Sharma, he's an icon of Indian cricket and of that franchise. So the decision to move him on and put Hardik Pandya on was, a lot of people thought was a strange one. But what's most strange about it, when he went back and played against the Gujarat Titans, he got booed by the previous team he played for, which you can understand. That's part and parcel of sport. But what's happened is he's got booed everywhere around the nation. He's getting booed at his home ground. He's getting booed when he plays at other venues. And you got to remember, this is from a spectator point of view where everyone loves the game. It's strange. It's strange that he's getting booed everywhere he goes. I can understand it when he goes back to his old team, but he's getting booed by his home crowd. So I don't know what they do there. He's got a great record as captain in the IPL. I think his winning percentage is up around 70. But things aren't working for him there at Mumbai. But it's been strange to watch because, the billions of people over here, their one love is cricket, and they put these players on a pedestal, all of them. So to be booing someone consistently is different behaviour than what you're used to in India.
Yeah, the glamour player at the glamour franchise, if you like, as well.
Yeah.
So it heightens the interest around a story like this. And then Sonny Gavaskar chimes in after a recent loss to CSK and says, ordinary bowling, ordinary captaincy. And Sonny obviously has got a bit of gravitas over there, given what he's accomplished in the game and been at the forefront of commentary in India for ever since he retired. I mean, does that just add to the pylon? Or do people look and go, oh, that's a bit harsh from Sonny?
No, it's going to be an interesting 48 hours after that. That happened last night. Sonny had his say on what he thought happened in the match. Kevin Peterson also was really, really strong in his views about the style of Hardik Pandya's captaincy. So it's going to be an interesting 48 hours whether Mumbai are reactive to that. But the problem is, you know who they play next? Us.
Who?
Us.
Have you got a little plan?
I just hope this gets into their camp and they start doubting each other. But these things can go the other way. They can galvanise teams or they can pull them apart. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the response.
Hads, are you gonna get ahead of the game here and maybe go over to whatever hotel they're staying at when they roll into town, Mumbai, and just tell all the hotel staff to start booing Hardik when he's like going up for a lift, coming down for a coffee in the morning, all of that?
No, I won't definitely not be doing that. Yeah, as I said, it's strange. It's a really strange one. I know Rohit's standing in the game and Hardik's been brought in to take Mumbai Indians into a new era, but for everyone to be booing him in a country who love these players more than you can understand, it's a really strange situation.
Is that the biggest yarn at the moment? Like the one that's capturing tabloid headlines? Or is there something else that's poked out at you that you've gone, whoa, I didn't expect that? Because you do expect the unexpected when it comes to the IPL.
Yeah, that's probably the strangest one. It is at the moment. There's all little plot stories everywhere in the IPL. You're getting close now to selections for the World Cup. So there's a lot of talk on different, or the 65 channels you have here that follow the cricket on what selection's going to be for the World Cup. So yeah, that's a big story. Another big story is actually the runs being scored. We've seen a couple of mammoth totals, and the talk about, do we get rid of the impact sub? Is the impact sub getting rid of the all-rounder and making teams have to go in with 8 batters and making it a lot more difficult for selection? So yeah, that's been a bit of talk around also.
Right, let's get to your rolling T20 World Cup squad, Had. So about a month ago, you named a kind of squad that looks likely to go over to the Caribbean in the US for this T20 World Cup in June, July. Your last entry, Warner, Head, Marsh, Maxwell, Short, Wade, Timmy David, Cummins, Starc, Zampa, Hazelwood, Inglis, Tanveer Sangha, Nathan Ellis, Steve Smith. So you did not include players that were injured at the time. So Stoinis and Aaron Hardy were not considered. Is any names changed in the time that we've had since you named those names a month ago?
I put Green in.
No.
Yeah, I think Marcus Stoinis will come into that squad.
Who for? Name names.
I will name names. I think Steve Smith's been over here commentating.
How's he going, by the way, in commentary?
He's been good. Mate, him and Stuart Broad have been a team. They have. They've been on every night together in the studio. They've been doing some wacky things off the ground as well. Smith and Stuart Broad, so they look like they've worked well together. So with him over here commentating the whole time, I don't see much cricket. So knowing the way he's meticulous with his preparation, I can't see him being in that squad now. Ashton Agar.
Big call.
Yeah, Ashton Agar is an interesting one. Looking at the surfaces and the success left-arm spinners are having in this form of the game, I think his name's going to come up. Mitch Marsh, I think, by the sound of it, he'll be right to go at number 3. But apart from that, they're the only changes I'd have in.
So you got Smith out, Stoinis in, and
Stoinis / Agar.
Okay, but not Agar in for Tanveer Sangha or something like that.
No, he's New South Welshman. But you get your baggy blue and your green or yellow coming at the same time.
Forgot. Ridiculous.
I want options with spinners.
Okay. We'll wait and see with that one. We will wait and see. But Cam Green, I mean, how's he performing over there? Is he forcing the issue with I don't know. It looks like Maxwell, Marsh, Head, Warner locked in. So the only possible there is a short drops out, Green comes in, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't think they need that extra all-rounder with Stoinis and Marsh there, and Glenn Maxwell can play that role. Also, I don't think they need Green. Green, they left him out of the 2020 series before the New Zealand Test match. I think they've worked out at the moment in his development, going from different formats, it hasn't worked well for him. So I think they'll leave him back and he'll concentrate more on getting ready for the Border Gavaskar Trophy.
There you go. So there's Hads' update. Steve Smith, even though he says he's biased towards New South Wales players, one of New South Wales' greatest ever products, is out of the T20 squad, according to Hads, for the moment. And maybe a Marcus Stoinis or an Ashton Agar coming in for him. But, we'll update that closer to the T20 World Cup and get Hads' thought as the IPL evolves. We're going to take a little breather. Back in a moment, we've got burning domestic questions for Hads and sundries as well. Hads, let's take a look around the country. Big questions from each men's state team. So this is the time of year where they're finalising their lists and plans for next season before they all trot off on an official off-season, then come back, usually about June. The state players come back and get involved with a long old pre-season before Shield starts in, late September, bit of Marsh Cup as well. Just to make it easy for you, we'll save your best till last with New South Wales. Queensland.
That will be easy.
Queensland need a coach. Wade Seckham gone. So
yep.
Langer, Matty Mott, Cameron White contenders. It does sound like Ashley Noffke is the favourite. Which way would you go, or which way do you think they're going to go?
They never go the way you think everyone's going to go. I think they've got a few really good candidates up there. Matthew Mott's an interesting one. He's had a lot of success in the women's program. He's with England at the moment, so he's still contracted there. I think he would be a really good fit up there. He's a local boy, passionate Queenslander, whether he wants to get back there and give it a crack. The other name I haven't heard mentioned is a Queensland resident now, is Darren Lehmann. Whether Darren Lehmann's interested in getting back into coaching. Is it the franchise stuff he wants to do with South Australia and Queensland, both close to his heart? So he's a name that I'd imagine they'd have a chat to. But Ashley Noffke, I thought I heard his name. I think he's been in the women's program for some time. But I'd be having a look at Matthew Mott and Buffer.
South Australia. So their captain will be Nathan McSweeney. So they've locked that in before they've appointed a head coach. Thoughts on that perspective from the Sackers?
Well, what we've seen of Nathan McSweeney, he's done a really good job in the leadership roles he's had. He did a really good job with Australia, the way he's captain, and every opportunity he's got, he's captained well. But it doesn't sit that well with me. Like you've changed your support staff. You say you've got a new coach to come in. He's going to have new ideas. He's going to want to get his eyes on the team and see how they perform in pre-season. There's obviously some other leaders in that squad that could jump out. And Nathan McSweeney will probably, in the end, whoever comes in would have been the obvious choice. But I don't like that they've named a captain before the coaches come in and put his stamp on the way they want to do things. So I don't like it.
I got a
You
different
do, don't you?
view.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the feeling there feels like a bit of a dearth of leadership potential when it gets to national team selection, and obviously Nathan McSweeney's got to go a ways to go before he gets to the top level and Test cricket. But I just get a feeling that maybe something's come from Cricket Australia to say, hey, can you kind of make this guy, give him as much leadership responsibility as possible, because we need this. There's not a lot of depth when you look around the place. There's a lot of old captains in Sheffield Shield cricket at the moment, or very experienced captains. There's no 24, 25, 26-year-olds with these roles that can develop when Paddy eventually gives it away, because there's no jump-out candidate, as far as I can see, the Australia Test captain. So I've got a feeling that they've taken a holistic view with this, and the coach will just go along with it.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad way to look at it, but I don't like the coach just goes along with it. The coaches come in to make change. So a new coach comes in, he puts his eyes over the squad. They go through their pre-season. He's obviously roles to come in and change behaviours and habits and standards about what's happening there at South Australian cricket. And then he'll make a decision. Then he'll make a recommendation to the head of performance or the board, or who he thinks the best leader is. And I just don't think they need to rush these decisions. You've got a guy there, Alex Carey, who's going to be there. It's a unique situation for the whole off-season. So Alex Carey's going to be there for the pre-season. We know he's a guy of high integrity. He's captained Australia at times. For the first few Shield games, he's still there. So you don't have to rush these decisions. Yes, you've got rid of your coach and you want to look like you're making change and you're going in the right direction, but give the coach an opportunity to get his feet under the desk. Get under the desk, have a look at what's going on in the squad, and you've got Alex Carey there for the first few games if McSweeney wasn't your choice and he needed more time.
Jason Sanger looks like he's headed there from New South Wales. And another thing that's happened with South Australia, no, it was one question per, but one quick one. They don't want to be known as the Redbacks anymore. They've dropped that. I mean, no one really called them that anyway, aren't they? Just the Sackers?
I thought so. I tell you what I don't like. I don't like that we've lost Jason Sanger.
We?
New South Wales. We're both New South Welshmen. I don't like
bring
that.
me into this. That's you.
No, I don't like that he's... I like he's going for opportunity, but I don't like that we haven't been able to develop him.
New South Wales,
Yeah. So I don't like that he's gone. It doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth. This kid's he's exceeded Australian 19 level. He's got hundreds against England in first-class games. I'm a bit worried about what's happening with the younger guys there at our state to lose someone like that, and we weren't able to get the best out of.
We'll get to New South Wales Hads in a moment. Your
You
mates
brought
from
Jason Sanger up.
South. Yeah, I did. Just south of the Murray, Victoria. How do the Vics manage Will Pucovski after another season of head knocks?
I don't have the answer to this. This is a really, really interesting one for me. That you can look at this on so many levels. You can look at it as, and we don't know all the ins and outs of it. We don't know. We've heard Chris Rogers come out at times and say it's been more of a mental health issue rather than head knock with concussions. So, yeah, I don't know. There's so many ways to look at it. You can look at it from a coaching point of view. You have to be nervous as a coach sending Will Pucovski out to play. That must be a conversation from the staff. He's had so many head knocks. You'd have to, from a staff member, be really nervous that is the next one going to cause permanent damage. So there's a lot of anxiety there, I'd imagine, from the coaching staff. And even playing against Will. would be nervous as well for opposition teams. They're all close mates. They're all around the country. They've played a lot of junior cricket together, all these top players, and you must be nervous bowling to them. So I don't know what the answer is here, and I don't know where they're going to land. Is Will going to continue to play the game? Have we heard from him? He's obviously a great talent. We've seen that when he made his Test debut. But yeah, there's a lot that's got to go on, and before I'd imagine that he comes back out to play. And I don't know how you manage the situation, because there's a lot of people involved now. I'd be nervous coaching him. I'd be really nervous sending him out to play because the number of head knocks he's had.
Tasmania. So nearly, they got to the Shield final. Didn't quite work out for them at the Wacker. They probably should have hosted a Shield final, but that's by the by. Matthew Wade gone. He's retired from first-class cricket. Looks like they'll get Matt Kuhneman down from Queensland. But, I mean, how do you replace a guy like Matty Wade in your setup, in your squad? Even when he's not playing, he's just around. You see him at training. Invaluable experience. Yeah,
I think Matty Wade will still be around. I think he'll be around even when his playing days are done. Actually, he's quite a good cricket brain. But to replace a Matty Wade on the field, he hasn't played a lot of cricket for them over the last couple of years. He's been in and out with different selections, but he's a bit of a bulldog. He's a bit of that
yes.
old school get in the contest. So they'll find
you,
that.
Brad.
Yeah, good bloke. They'll find that hard to replace, because he did get into contests. He's got that winning mentality. So they'll cover it with keeping. They got a few young keepers coming through down there that'll get the opportunity now that Matty Wade's gone, but they won't replace his competitiveness.
Absolutely not. WA. Not that you really care, because they're winning everything and you're jealous of them, but how can they best handle losing more players to national selection?
Oh, we can sit here and say it's going to be tough, but mate, they put Cooper Connolly in the final. He makes his debut and he dominates. They're just got a really good system over there at the moment that the next man up performs. They're a tight squad. And they want to lose players to national duty. The more they lose, the better. Their system's working, but yeah, I'm not too concerned that WA's reign will stop. I don't think they've lost anyone that they want to keep. I know Philippi's left, but my understanding that they weren't too concerned that he decided to push on. So I think WA are going to just keep rolling on.
Here we go, Hads. Righto. Your turn for the stage. New South Wales. So Nick Maddo's come back. Josh Philippi, as you mentioned, left WA. Looks like he's coming to New South Wales. If it's not already locked in, it will be soon. So what does it say about their strategy that you've got two more established guys coming in to the setup? Feel good about it?
No, I don't actually. I don't feel good about it. Nick Madison's obviously New South Wales. He's grown up down the Wollongong area. He left. His game wasn't in great shape when he was at New South Wales. We probably weren't doing the best to develop his talents. He started off with a bang in his first class cricket, 100 in his first game actually. Then, he wasn't doing much. He's gone away and been outstanding for Victoria. He's really taken his game to another level. Really found the mojo in his game. And so he's gone away, developed, and now we call him back as a mature player. So that, to me, we lose someone at the top of the order. Another one of our young kids who we've developed. He sits out another year, and we've sort of looked like we're trying to win the comp now, which is great. You want to win it, but you also want to win it and develop these kids to come through. So we've got Jackson Bird, we've got Chris Tremaine who've done the same thing, have gone away, found their mojo and come back as mature cricketers. But I don't see a lot of development in our young talent. And going back to the Jason Sanger to lose, when we've got Josh Philippi coming over also, and my understanding is he is pretty lazy in the last few months over there at WA, so he's going to come over. So Matt Gilks goes. He looks like the obvious one that'll go. So another young kid goes out of our team. My concern is that we're not developing our young kids. That's a big concern, and that's something New South Wales have done naturally over time for forever and a day. That's where a lot of the cricketers come from for Australia, which is the way we develop our young kids. So with these two coming over, that's two young kids that go out of the team, and we can say all the right things. I know they've got to earn their right for selection, but come the first game, Madison will be, say, Nikitaris, who just started to play. He goes out of the team. And Gilks, who I thought was pretty thrown in the wolves a bit last year to bat at number 4 and keep wickets, I'll be very surprised if he's playing there as well. So we can talk about these guys have got to earn their positions, but come the first game, they'll play, and two young kids are out of the team. So looks like they're looking to win the comp now, which is great, but I'd like to see them just to develop a bit more of our talent.
Yeah, because you look at the players developed for the Test team in the past 10 years, and yes, there are established New South Wales players in that Test team, but it's Smith, Hazelwood, Cummins, Starc. Nathan Lyon goes down as a New South Wales player as well. Dave Warner just retired. Usman Khawaja started in New South Wales up in Queensland. There's no fresh, oh, wow, he's next man up. He's 25 and flying for New South Wales. So that's what you have a massive problem with at the moment.
Well, I do. I just don't think we're developing our younger kids in the rate that we should. If you look at this Test team, they've got an ageing bowling attack. They can't be around forever. So they've got a couple of years, let's hope longer, left in them. But they'll probably retire the same time Bird and Tremaine do, and then we bring the young kids in. So, I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to win the comp now and strengthen the state, which is all good on the surface. But I'd like to see more growth in some of the young kids. Even Ollie Davies is a great example. Mate, he was outstanding this year in the 6 games he got. New South Wales didn't pick him at the start of the year. He wasn't in the team. He came into the team for an injury. And then all of a sudden blossomed once he got the opportunity to get into the team. But they didn't select him at the start of the year. They seen something in his game that they thought he wasn't ready for. And he only came in for injury. So just to me, it looks like we're not identifying and developing our talent as quick as we used to.
Geez, it was interesting, your language right there. It became something you're not happy with. It was they, and then you went back to we. It was if you didn't have this huge media career and this wonderfully successful podcast, you'd have time to devote more to New South Wales cricket. But you're obviously not happy about it and you want to make it known. So fair enough to you.
No worries.
Sundries. Virat Kohli's getting a wax statue at Jaipur's Wax Museum. So it's no real surprise he got over there.
Yeah.
Which Aussie cricketer, Hads, would you like to see get a wax statue, and what pose are they doing?
Aussie cricketer.
Yeah. Now, there's a couple outside the MCG who've got proper
Warney.
statues.
Yeah.
DK.
You know what?
I've got
Who
one.
would you like? Okay.
I'd like Ricky Ponting just ripping one over fine leg, or backward square.
Hasn't he got one at Tassie?
Ricky pulling. Maybe. Does he? Yes. A nod. There you go. I've never visited it. I've never seen it with my own eyes. But Ricky having a pull. That'd be a great wax.
What about Gilly? What about Gilly?
Gilly doing what? Sending Monty Panesar over the Swan River.
Yeah. Just the big slog sweep, the back leg hooked out, the bat flying into the air.
And do you know what you'd do if you saw that statue over in WA? You'd get the little Sharpie out and down the bottom of it put "Made in New South Wales."
I'd put his New South Wales Shield number.
Yeah. Tattoo it on. There you go. There's two little versions of the Australian cricket wax statue. Steve Smith and Travis Head signed with Washington Freedom in Major League Cricket. The big question for me is, Hads, how do we get Willow Talk over there for a month to do a series of podcasts from the MLC?
Yeah, I think Sam should work on that. They're two great signings, and Ravindra as well, the New Zealand number 3 batter that starred in the World Cup. He's also signed there, so that's a good 1, 2, 3, and the star power for those young batters that Ricky Ponting's there to have the month with Ricky was obviously very, very inviting also. So, good signings. Steve Smith, that's just after the World Cup.
Absolutely, and he loves the States. He's got a place in New York as well.
Yeah, he does.
So,
he does.
Just with the MLC, have you got an offer to go and coach over there and help out? Anything that interests you? Once again, do you need a media helper over there?
I feel like these are loaded questions.
They are, absolutely. Now, a little comment. I don't know if you saw this, Ads. We put it up on socials. Maitland Brown, New South Wales Quick.
Yep.
Sydney Sixer. You love Maitland, obviously, because she wears magenta in summer.
Yep.
Her freakish ability to speak and sing with her mouth closed. Everyone I've shown this to is just gobsmacked about the ability that this young woman has with this talent. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if you can do it. I don't know if your kids have tried it, or my kids have given it a go and failed with it.
I tell you what, she'd be the best ledger ever.
Get away with everything.
No one would know where it came from. If I was heels, I'd have her right next to me at slip.
How's that? Having a ventriloquist in your team. Amazing. Well, Joss on TikTok came up with the best comment in regards to this. And have a look at it. It's all over our socials as well. Joss said on TikTok, "Wonderful. Bradman never did that." So that's how good it was. That's how good it was.
Anything he couldn't do.
Hads, exactly. Hads, thank you very much for that episode and bringing us up to date with everything that's going on in India. Good luck with the next few games at home, and we'll catch up after them for more of an update.
Mate, it's been a pleasure. I've been missing you.
Oh, I miss you too. Can't wait to... I'm collecting a few stories that I'm going to bring up, though, only when you're back here face to face. So we've got some good stuff on the way on Willow Talk, okay?
Can't wait.
Cheers, Hads, and thank you for listening to this episode of Willow Talk. We'll be back with more later in the week. Yeah, thanks for watching the Willow Talk podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss an episode wherever you are. And while you're at it, check out these videos up here. They're mostly good.